Welcome to the Now. I'm Ashley.
I'm Brian.
The latest E3 is almost here. It's this weekend, you guys. This is the time of year when all the big console makers, game publishers, and studios are rolling out the biggest games they're working on and talking them all up.
Super exciting. All right, so with the new E3 just around the corner, let's take a look back. Let's look at E3 2017, at last year's presentations, and see how their promises stacked up with reality. We're going to go through, see what everybody promised, see what everybody actually released, and we're going to give them each a grade based on how well they lived up to their words.
That's right, game developer. You thought that you were done with grades when you graduated? No. And this is also a nice reminder that all the exciting stuff we're about to see has realities built in.
Yes.
So let's start with Sony, PlayStation, and see how they did.
Yeah, while Sony didn't announce any new hardware at E3, their presentation was all about games, and it was highlighted by some of their big franchises like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Uncharted, Spider-Man, and Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, Sony announced a number of games prior to its E3 show, and they all released on schedule in 2017. They included Neck 2, which took a 69 on Metacritic, very exciting, Gran Turismo Sport, which took a 75 on Metacritic, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which took an 80, and the Undertale ports for PS4 and Vita, which take a 92, although I'm not going to credit Sony with the Undertale ports so much as the Undertale developers.
It's just a good game.
It was, it's great.
As for other games that have released since E3 last year that Sony announced, they include the Uncharted Lost Legacy DLC that did an 84 on Metacritic, the Horizon Zero Dawn DLC, The Frozen Wilds, that got an 83 on Metacritic, and of course, Monster Hunter World did a very respectable 90 on Metacritic.
And has devoured way too many hours from way too many people here in the office. Also, Shadow of the Colossus, that remake released in 2018 with a 91 on Metacritic. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite came out in 2017 with a 72 Metacritic, and Detroit Become Human just came out. That came out with a 79 on Metacritic, and of course, their shining jewel, God of War, released this year to rave reviews and has become the best-selling PlayStation 4 exclusive ever, and taken home not only commercial success, but critical success with a 94 on Metacritic.
All right, so those are the successes. Let's look at the stuff that didn't come out. So the Sony games that did not come out since the last E3 included Spider-Man, although a release date wasn't announced last year. It's now scheduled for September, and Days Gone, which was promised for 2018, but now it's been delayed to 2019.
Overall, pretty good grade there. Not a ton in the way of delays.
Right.
There's a little bit, but for the most part, everything came out when they said it would,
solid.
And was pretty well received as well. So I'm gonna give them an A minus because I think an A.
Yeah.
That's a high standard. They're done at 4.0. Okay.
Right. They had God of War. That was definitely the peak. But after that, I think it dropped off a little. I'll say B+.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Now, as for Microsoft, the big highlight of its presentation was the reveal of Xbox One X, which was billed as the most powerful console ever. You know how many teraflops it's got?
6.
And the Xbox One X did release in November 2017 to positive reviews. It's also helped bring the hardware sales momentum up for Microsoft. Of course, the lack of exclusives continues to be a problem for them, but just as a console, Xbox One X has delivered in terms of actual sheer performance and flops.
Yeah, always flops. As for the games announced by Microsoft, they weren't all exclusives, despite what that booming voice said.
And it said it a lot.
Exclusive.
So much.
Yeah, okay, but the announced games that did release include Forza 7, got an 86 on Metacritic, Assassin's Creed Origin, that got an 85 on Metacritic, PUBG on Xbox, that did come out, State of Decay 2, 68 on Metacritic, lots of bugs there, Dragon Ball FighterZ got an 86 on Metacritic.
I want to dock Dragon Ball FighterZ just because it's hard to tell if it's Dragon Ball FighterZ or Fighter Z.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball, pick a theme.
Right. Sea of Thieves got a 69 on Metacritic. Nice. Tacoma, 79 on Metacritic. Super Lucky's Tale, 64 on Metacritic. And Cuphead.
Dude, Cuphead
Maybe they're big
was probably the highlight in
Yes.
terms of the games that they've put out was the best quality.
Big time, yeah. It got an 86 on Metacritic, that was great. Before the Storm got an 81 on Metacritic, and then the multi-plat Middle-earth Shadow of War, which did an 81 on Metacritic.
Well, Microsoft also promised to expand its popular Xbox One backward compatibility program to include original Xbox games. Now that program was launched in fall of 2017, so nailed it there. Safe to say backwards compatibility has really become one of the Xbox One bright spots, like just across the ecosystem.
Right, okay, now for the bad news. Sadly for Xbox players, a lot of what Microsoft announced last year still hasn't come out yet. That includes Crackdown 3.
Well, yeah, Crackdown 3 has been announced and shown a couple of times now.
Yeah. Anthem, also, we thought we were going to get that by now. Metro Exodus, Black Desert Online, Ashen, Minecraft Super Duper Graphics Pack, Deep Rock Galactic, The Darwin Project, The Last Night, The Artful Escape, Code Vein, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Come on, we need Ori.
I know. Now, all of those didn't have release dates, but that's just sort of all the stuff they talked about that didn't release.
Right. So overall, I think Microsoft has had kind of a tough year in terms of its exclusives. It didn't have a lot of them. State of Decay State of Decay 2 did better than the first State of Decay in terms of overall sales, overall players at the very least, since they're not talking hard sales so much as the number of people playing it. Sea of Thieves has a lot of potential, but it launched without enough content to keep a lot of people happy. I think Cuphead is easily their biggest success of the last year. So in terms of releasing the games that they gave dates to, good job. But I think Xbox hasn't been doing great. I'm gonna give them a C.
Yeah, good on them for Xbox One X. I think that delivered. Cuphead, one of my favorite games of last year, but yeah.
And I think backwards compatibility, which we don't talk about nearly enough, is...
It's great.
It is, because
and they deserve credit for that.
They do. They're pushing hard on it. It means that you can change, when the next generation comes out, you don't lose your entire library of games. So
I wish
that's
everyone
important.
would do that. Yeah, I'll go C too.
Okay, so now for Nintendo. As always, Nintendo did its Nintendo Direct presentation instead of the traditional one in front of an audience. Its big announcements were almost all focused around the Switch, which was, I mean, at that time, it's just a few months old, but it was already gaining steam, already really popular thanks to the success of Zelda, but was, people wanted to know more, like, is this gonna have staying power? Is this gonna have enough games coming? And so that's what they were addressing last E3.
Yeah, and Nintendo announced a slew of games during that Direct, most of which.
Metros.
Mostly they released. They include Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which got an 83 on Metacritic. Kirby Star Allies got a 73 on Metacritic. Pokken Tournament DX, 79 on Metacritic. Fire Emblem Warriors, 74 on Metacritic. Of course, there was the Zelda Breath of the Wild DLC that released. Probably their biggest, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That was awesome, 85 on Metacritic. Rocket League for the Switch came out, 86 on Metacritic. No, this was the biggest one, Super Mario Odyssey. I forgot.
I think you forgot about maybe kind of an important one.
Yeah, that was amazing, 97 on Metacritic. Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS, that was awesome, 85 on Metacritic. And the Mario & Luigi Superstar Remake got an 81 on Metacritic. All of those things came out.
And then there are things that did not release. Obviously, no Metroid Prime 4. It was just a logo at that point.
It still is.
Yeah, well, to this day. As for the announcement of a new Pokemon game on Switch, that became multiple games. The Pokemon Let's Go games were announced for release later this year, and then a new core Pokemon for Switch was announced for 2019. We're still waiting on the new Yoshi game that was talked about at E3, but we do have a new release, at least. The Sushi Striker, The Way of the Sushi Dough, which came out today, so they just squeaked in right under the line on that one.
We'll let you buy this time.
Yeah, overall, I don't have a lot of improvements that Nintendo could have made. They were good about putting out the games that they said they were gonna put out. We didn't see any delays. It was a good, solid lineup. As always, they do rely mostly on first-party stuff. So we'd like to see, I'd like to see them lean more into that, but I already know they're doing that this year, between Smash Brothers, between the Pokemon games. Just give me my Animal Crossing, all right? I'm gonna give you an A- until you give me Animal Crossing, then I'll bump your grade retroactively, all right? All right, cool. I can be bribed.
Yeah, I'll give it an A. I think it was, everything was good. They had a classic in Mario Odyssey. Mario Rabbids was an interesting team up with Ubisoft.
That was a game that had no business being as good as it was.
It was awesome.
The teasers for that, the initial poster, I thought, oh God, here we go. This is gonna be a train wreck. And it turned out so so good.
It was cute. It was XCOM, but like accessible and fun. My kids love it.
It was a great tie-in.
Yeah, and Samus Returns, a nice swan song for the 3DS. Like, it was a lot of fun.
Whoa. I mean, they are still putting out 3DS games.
True.
It's not the last 3DS game of all time. Swan Song.
Look, I hope it's not the swan song. I still love my 3DS.
Okay, now let's run down some of the big developers and publishers who publish multi-platform stuff.
Yeah, now Ubisoft kind of stole the show last year when they busted out a trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is a sequel to the 2003 cult hit that pretty much nobody saw coming.
Nobody since all of the other times they've announced it.
Oh.
They've announced
so
it
everyone
so many times.
Was that the first time that we had seen a trailer, though? Was that the big... Okay.
There was a trailer years ago, but then they keep showing it and then like taking it offline and reworking a bunch of stuff. This one looks great, so everyone got really excited about that.
I was sitting next to Eddie when they rolled out the trailer, and he just goes, "Oh my God, Beyond Good and Evil!" Just lost it. Yeah, it hadn't released yet, but still, everyone is excited, especially Eddie.
Yeah, they also announced Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which we talked about a little bit already. It was a very dramatic entrance from Miyamoto himself, and that did release. It was very well received. Miyamoto said that they did a good job with it, and the creative guy on it was crying, and it was beautiful, and then I was crying, and we were all crying because tears of happiness.
Yeah.
So good job on that one.
They also talked about the open world racer, The Crew 2. They unveiled that. It still hasn't released yet, but it's due out later this month. So
and they've had their closed beta. They've got an open beta coming. So that one, you can squeak that one in. We also got some gameplay of Far Cry 5, which then released earlier this year, and the Pirate Combat game Skull and Bones, which we are still waiting on, and we've seen that a couple of times now. Overall, I'm liking the trend of them showing games that are going to be out for the most part within the year. I think that's the way that the industry is moving. The fact that we don't know really windows for Skull and Bones, that we don't know what to expect from Beyond Good and Evil 2 yet. I almost wish I'd seen less of those until they were more solid, so I'm gonna say B+.
Yeah, I think B. Mario Rabbids, great game. Far Cry 5 was good. Beyond Good and Evil, that was a lot of excitement, but it also feels like it could be one of those like E3 games that like doesn't roll out for years and years and years.
Don't be Duke Nukem Forever, please. Don't be that game.
Yes, no.
Bethesda got a lot of praise for its E3 presentation. It was a little bit of a slower year. They had Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, which turned out great. The Evil Within 2, which was less well received, I think, than Wolfenstein 2. A new Dishonored adventure. All these did release in 2017, with Wolfenstein 2 being the most critically acclaimed of the bunch, scoring the upper 80s on Metacritic.
Yeah, Evil Within 2, a little less well regarded, still got an 82 on Metacritic for its Xbox One version, and it got a 76. That's less well good for the PlayStation 4.
Less well good.
That is an awkward phrase I just said. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider did come out. It got an 82 on Metacritic. Oh, and real quick, they did talk about Doom VFR. That was announced. It did release on VR platforms later in 2017.
Bethesda's definitely been the best about talking about things that are coming out within a year cycle. They nailed it. It was a slower year for them than it was the previous year, which is understandable. You have years where more games come out. I'm going to give them a B+ when I mix the scale of the lineup, because they had the ones that they put out were really solid, but they were less high profile.
Yeah, it feels like a solid B. Like what they talked about, they delivered on. But if Wolfenstein 2 is your best game, it's a B year.
I mean, keep in mind as well, this year seems like it's going to be a firecracker.
Yeah.
As for EA, its presentation mostly revolved around Star Wars Battlefront 2, which did come out in November 2017, but it was majorly controversial thanks to the microtransaction model, which bummer for EA in hindsight, because they devoted about half the presentation to that game. Credit where credit's due, they at least removed the microtransactions from it the night before it launched, so it didn't technically launch with the microtransactions. There is that, but them focusing so much on a game that turned out to be so troubled,
Right.
not a great move.
Yeah, they just bungled it so badly. It just feels like they never recovered. EA also announced Anthem, which has, of course, yet to come out. And then there was A Way Out, which was the kind of smaller budget, kind of a AA co-op prison break game that did release in March of 2018. Got a 78 on Metacritic.
And credit to EA for that one. It's an indie title from the developers who made Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. This is an indie title at heart that EA was publishing and helping like give a marketing budget to. And I think that A Way Out was not only good, it delivered what it promised, and also EA didn't really make a whole lot of money on it. This was a game where you could download the demo and then play co-op with someone who had the full game. You didn't both have to have a full copy. So credit to them for sticking with that and helping the developers see through a non-traditional vision.
Right. EA also spent time talking about Need for Speed Payback that did release in 2017. Not so good on Metacritic, a 61, but it did come out.
It did come out. Of course, EA also spent time talking about its sports franchises as per usual. FIFA 18, Madden 18, NBA Live 18, which all released on schedule. The big downside for EA on this one is that Battlefront 2, it came out. Wasn't great. Could have had a lot of improvements. Anthem not out yet.
Right.
We'll see. There's a more pressure on that one after Andromeda, but I like what they did with A Way Out. So I'm gonna give them a little bit of credit there. C+.
Yeah, I'm gonna go solid C because Battlefront 2, I think there's a good game underlying it, but the microtransactions were so bad. It just sparked so much backlash. A Way Out, I think they did good on that. So I think there's room for improvement there.
Yeah, and you know what else? Good on EA for bringing to the forefront the conversation about microtransactions across the industry. I'm sure all of the developers and all the other publishers are very pleased.
Yeah.
Okay, so that about wraps up our report card for E3 2017. Keep this in mind as we go into E3 2018, which is starting this weekend. It's going to be pretty crazy. We're going to see a lot of flashy, fancy things. We're all going to be very excited because there's just this really cool energy around E3 and around the announcements. And the developers get excited because it's a lot of times their first chance to actually talk about something they've been working on for years. So it's a whole big thing. We're gonna have a lot of fun, but let's keep in mind that some things may be delayed, some things may come out and not quite live up to the promises we had from them. And let's remember that after E3.
Yeah.
All right? We'll just take it down a notch. But during E3, we'll have fun. All right?
That's right.
And what do you guys think of all of the different promises that the platforms and publishers made last E3 and what they've delivered throughout the year? Let us know all that in the comments.
And for all your E3 news, stay tuned to this channel. We'll be there all week. So keep it locked. Like and subscribe. We're going to work hard next week.
Whew.
Yeah. World did a very respectable 90 on Metacritic.
And has devoured way too many hours from way too many people here in the office. Also, Shadow of the Colossus, that remake released in 2018 with a 91 on Metacritic. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite came out in 2017 with a 72 on Metacritic.